You're listening to Connections Radio, the sound of business. I'm Louisa Wizzi Magnuson with Rodney C. Burris on the business of emotional intelligence. From the tough neighborhoods of Baltimore and Jacksonville to becoming one of America's premier emotional intelligence trainers, Rodney C. Burris's journey is one of resilience and triumph. Raised single-handedly by a resilient mother amidst challenges, Rodney's story is one of remarkable perseverance. Undeterred by hardship, Rodney successfully pursued his education, earning a bachelor's degree in psychology and a master's in non-profit management. His journey and dedication to overcoming adversity have fueled his passion to help others. Rodney now uses his expertise to support numerous organizations with their team building initiatives, communication enhancement, data analysis, and program development. His engaging workshops and seminars have gained global acclaim, and Rodney joins me today to discuss the business of emotional intelligence. Welcome to Connections Radio. Welcome back, Rodney. How are you today?
Yes, hello, hello. How are you? I'm so excited to be here with you. And your voice has helped me a lot. I just want you to know your voice has been a phenomenal boost for my whole career and journey. Thank you so much for being you.
Well, that's lovely to hear. Thank you. It's really good to be able to catch up with you again. For the listeners or watchers, we have done this before. We did the business of motivational speaking, and what, 3 years ago now?
Yes.
Must be a
Mhm.
while ago, at least 3 years ago, I
Was
think.
it more than 3 years? It's 2024. So it was right after the pandemic. So either 20,
Yeah,
right around there. So yeah,
21, I think. Yeah. Because I've been on Connections Radio for since 2020 now. And you were within the first year, I think. So
yeah.
yeah, great to have you back. Would you like to start by telling me a little about your background and education?
Oh, well, yes. My background in education, um, I actually would like to tell you what I'm doing right now. Can I just jump in and let you
Oh,
know?
sure. Yeah, tell me what
Yes,
you do now.
yes. That background is that's old stuff. I am so I have been delving into the world of emotional intelligence on a pretty broad scale. I realized that the book that we talked about some episodes ago was rooted in the idea of emotional intelligence theory. The workshops that I used to do on a college level, providing those to college students, was rooted in emotional intelligence theory. I knew it, but I didn't know it, right? It was kind of like this thread through my journey for the past 10 or 15 years. And so recently, about 2 years ago, it was brought out to me like, do you realize that this is what you do? And we mapped it out. It was a team of us. Louisa, I now have a column that I write for the White House. Um,
Wow.
it's called Emotionally Intelligent Nation. So I talk about updates coming from our nation's capital out to the American public through the lens of emotional intelligence.
Mm.
So that's one. I train the Federal Department of Education. They have 4,000 employees. I train their senior leadership around emotional intelligence theory, team building, communication. Um, 2 months ago, I was with the Office of Naval Intelligence
Hmm.
outside of DC doing a workshop around this same thing. It's called The Emotionally Intelligent Leader Shaping Tomorrow's Future, right? So that was the name, the title of the workshop. Um, yes, it's this has kind of been the whole thing, and it's rooted in my book, Get Off the Cycle and Run, which is about who I am and how I'm perpetuating the situations that I find myself over and over, the cycles, right? That's emotional intelligence. That's self awareness and how we relate. So I love it. It's refreshing, it's invigorating, and it brought me back to you.
So when did you realize that everything you do and all the training you do in the workshops and it was all about emotional intelligence? When did it really click? And
It really,
also, what
yes,
exactly is emotional intelligence? Let's go there.
let's start there. Okay, so emotional intelligence theory has four major components, right? First of all, is self awareness. How do I feel? That's the first thing. And a lot of times, we, especially here in America, we encourage each other to make decisions devoid of emotion. Get your feelings out of it. Just do your job. Have a clear head, right? So we say those kind of things as if the person can somehow, I'm going to use this word, divorce themselves from the experience of feeling. But
Mm,
that's like breathing out without inhaling, right? They go in tandem. It's the nature of the world, right? It's like electromagnetism. They go together. And so, first of all, how do I feel? Frustrated, tired, happy, elated, excited? How? Why? That's the first thing. The second thing, my behavior. What will I do now in light of how I feel? Right? In light of my knowledge of what's going on with me, what do I choose to? How do I choose to act?
Mm.
Thirdly, empathy. How might somebody connected to me, the situation, also feel if I were in their shoes? And then fourthly, how can I, from my vantage point, help us coordinate so that we have better and better outcomes? Right? Those four components, our ability to do that well, is indicative of our level of emotional intelligence. And so
Mm.
that works in families, that works in sport, that works on the job. It works.
Mm. Fantastic. And how did you first get it? Well, we discussed that actually. I was going to say, how did you first get into the business of emotional intelligence? It sounds like it kind of found you, and you realized after many years in motivational speaking and things like that, and communications and all the stuff we've discussed before, it all led you into becoming this top trainer. And you are now recognized as a top trainer in this stuff in the
Yes.
States and beyond, which must be very
Yes.
exciting. How does that feel?
So yeah, you know, one of the to answer your question about how did it start, I got a call one day from a person who owns a media outlet in Baltimore, and he's a very kind of to the point guy, very direct. Rodney, yes, his name is Donnie. I said, yes, sir, Donnie. Are you in town? Yes, sir, I'm in town. Do you know how to write? Yes, sir, I know how to write. No, can you write? Yes, sir, I can write. Do you want to be our correspondent to the White House? What?
Wow, out of the
What?
blue. That's amazing.
So that was earlier this year. It hasn't even been a full year that I've been operating that capacity. I have received so many invitations to go to the White House, to be scanned in, my background check, all of that stuff. And I'm standing so far away from the President of the United States, other dignitaries, people that help run our country for decades and decades, leadership, celebrities, regular folk, staffers, Secret Service, CIA agents, and me, Wizzi, me,
You're just in the
just
middle of
right
it
there.
all, just having no idea
Yeah,
what's
just
going on.
oh man. So that was one aspect of it. Another one with the Department of Education for the country. Um, I went to a leadership retreat in Jamaica, and I went there intentionally to do a workshop because I knew it was going to be people of importance there. And when we got there, the venue had overpacked and the weather changed and such and such, and they had to change everything around. I didn't get to go. I didn't get to get up in front of the folks.
Hmm.
Very disappointed because this was a few years ago. I had made a big investment to be there, and I was out of the money. Like the investment was so that I can do my stuff, show what I can do, and then land further business. And I didn't get to do it. So I was very disappointed. And we were having conversations at the table and breakfast and dinner. And the day before we left, Louise, one of the attendees there, one of the people of importance, said, Rodney, what you do, can you do it for the government? And I was like, yeah, yeah, sure, yeah, yeah. Right. The answer is yes. Right.
Just
What?
to say yes to whatever
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
and then
yeah.
work it out later. Yeah.
We'll figure it out. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Right.
That's how I've
So,
always managed my career. Yes, I can do that. How do I do
yeah, right.
that?
And then she was like, great. Okay. We'll be in touch. She said, we'll be in touch. Um, the next thing you know, we left there. I was still a little sad, but I tried to get myself out of the feeling of being down about it because something else that I've learned separately before I even started doing this work, emotional state, I'd use the phrase electromagnetism, right? So if electricity is kind of like this outgoing, sharp, lightning force, it's our thoughts that we project into the world. Magnetism is a drawing, attractive force. Our thoughts are kind of like electrical, if I can just make a parallel, analogous, right? Um, how we feel is attractive, is magnetic, and we draw people to us based on how we are internally. And so if I find myself consistently around or people drawn to me that want to take advantage of me, disrespect me, always looking out for me, laugh with me, whatever, however their dynamic is. What's easy to do is say, you should or shouldn't treat me like that. You. What's more impactful, what's longer lasting, is adjusting my internal levels, my gauges. Why am I drawing these folks? Why do I find myself consistently in concert with these particular, what is it about me? And so now I find myself around these individuals. I find myself around these folks. And that's the magnetism of it. So I didn't want to sit in a down and out place coming out of that leadership retreat, because I was aware that I would draw disappointment. It's almost like you require it, right? And I don't want this, but we can somehow sometimes, Wizzy, become addicted to the feelings of disappointment and grief, and we may not know it, right? Nobody's like, yeah, give me another shot of, give me another take of that disappointment, man. It's great. But
Oh, that feels good.
oh man, I love it. However, if we take an assessment of where we are, who we are, how we are, we find ourselves. If, if we take for a fact that we consistently find ourselves in certain situations, and then we apply the idea, the theory, that perhaps I may or may not be perpetuating, requiring these sort of things. I have a certain agency in this. If we take that theory as also a co-equal fact, it changes how we look at the world. It changes everything, because now I have control, not immediate control. I can't just like, now I think this, now I want this, and tomorrow's completely different.
Just manifest $1 billion like tomorrow because I believe I deserve it.
Believe it. Yeah, and so that's how I got. Anyway, I'm so sorry. That woman, she was the woman, that leader from the retreat. She was the one who, her company has a multi-million-dollar contract with the federal government to do different types of work. She wanted to get into the leadership development space, and she actually was looking for a funny-looking guy or two to kind of come in and help with that part of it, because they were a very technical agency. They help with processing and not personal development.
They
And
needed a
so
people person.
needed a people person. And here I come walking through Jamaica at the retreat. And before you know it, I'm in front of leadership that run how Americans are educated.
That's incredible. And since I've met you, your achievements have just grown and grown and grown. Every time we've reconnected, however long it's been, you've just
Yes,
been getting higher and higher. How does it feel to
yes.
be up at the top now?
You want to know something? I'm going to say this, and I want to say this with equal parts humility and a bit of definiteness. I don't know if that's a word about this.
Divinity?
Yes, let's go with that. Is that a word? I don't know.
I
It sounds
can't
smart.
remember.
Let's go with it. But humility and divinity, we'll put those two together. Um, it feels like I belong to be here and beyond. And what I mean by that is, um, I was taught a very simple, less idea concept, that we are not just humans doing busy, doing a whole bunch of stuff, because activity and productivity are not necessarily the same thing, right? And so we can do a lot without getting a lot done. And it's
It's the
hard to,
definition of a busy fool, isn't it? You can be a
yes,
busy fool, or if you work smart, not hard, you tend to be
yes.
very productive in with minimum activity. And if you're a busy fool, you have maximum activity and productivity.
Do
Yeah.
I have to show for it? Right? Like I don't have anything to show for all of my effort. I'm trying. And so the idea is to not to try to be punctual, right? To get there on time, to change, let me try, let me do, is to become the person that is punctual, become the person that has a better relationship, right? I become the person that does. And so now it's not so much humans doing, but I get to be a human
Being. Oh. Yes, I like that. That's really cool. How do you train people to be more emotionally intelligent? I mean, I'm wondering, can it even be taught, or are people either basked with this intelligence type or not. Do you see what I mean? Because the very definition, the very words, emotional intelligence, you can't really change how intelligent you are, but you can educate yourself to be more knowledgeable. So where does it fit in with that, with your training?
So first of all, I took a class when I was in college called it was something about psychology and intelligence or something like that. I was a psych major, something about intelligence and psychology. So contrary to popular belief, intelligence is not a static bucket, right? We all are born with a certain measure of it, but like any muscle or capacity, we can grow, change, we can lose our ability to relate it, etc. Emotional intelligence can be taught. One of the things that so I teach something, I practice something called a personal vision statement. So you said, how does it feel, Rodney, to kind of be here? Well, and it's the same premise with a vision board, right? It's the same kind of idea. Michael Jackson, I don't know if you ever heard of that little. He sung a couple of, he pinned a couple of.
Rings a bell, you know, something to
Okay,
do with
okay,
pop
all right,
music.
all right.
Yeah.
Michael Jackson and Bruce Lee, well, they were the ones who inspired me, unbeknownst to them, to embrace this concept, and now I share it, right? I share it broadly. So one of the ways that I teach emotional intelligence is especially for the person that really wants to achieve different and better. Not just like I want to be a little bit more comfortable, but somebody who really wants to change who they are to something beyond that. The personal vision statement is a powerful tool. So what happens is you write out a paragraph-ish or so, right? You write out something short. It's not a manifesto, something really short. And here are the elements with it. You write it in the present tense. I am, I am, I am, I am. I am is a very, very, very powerful statement to self. You add ing to it because we're so smart that when we say I am a billionaire, right? Our brain is like, buddy, what are you talking about? You are
Why are you
not,
lying to yourself?
right? Right? And that dissonance causes the breakdown because we know the truth that we are currently not. But when you add in process ing, right, I can swallow that. I can digest that. My psyche doesn't fight me. So you write it in the present as a becoming, as a processing. Gratefulness, gratitude. That is such a major, major, major component of it. And I know it seems so simple. I'll get to Einstein in a second because Einstein agrees with the simplicity of it. That's coming. The gratitude. So the present tense in process, gratitude. You write, what are we willing to contribute, give? Now, what I mean by that is if you think about the universe, I don't mean like stars and planets. I want to think about it from the idea of all that is, right? We break that word down, universe, one song, the all of us. You can't take anything or subtract anything from that system. It's the closed totality of everything. And so the idea that I'm detracting from it is not true, but I can exchange and appreciate, give and take, electromagnetism, inhale, exhale. And so, what am I willing to contribute? Is that reading to little kids? Is that opening up a soup kitchen to give? Is that helping grandmothers? What is it, right? Like the hospital workers. So, you build into there your exchange, right? With the gratefulness. You put a time on it by this time or during this period or over these years or whatever it is. Write that. And what I do is I record it because I believe in the voice and the power of
Mm.
spoken word, right? And so you record it in your own voice and then repeat it, hear it, listen to it. I go to sleep to it, wake up to it. I play it throughout the day as I little, right? And I did this maybe about a year and a half ago. Louisa, within that year and a half, Lighthouse correspondent, speaking overseas again. You know, lining up to do a TED talk. I'm going to be in Kenya doing a tour coming up here. I'm going to be receiving an award. Thank you so much. Humbly, I say that. In Johannesburg, well, Durban, South Africa. later on this year. And I honestly believe that it's not so much that I was trying to make those things happen, but I was becoming the person that is reflective of those type of things. We can all,
Mm.
I believe we can all do it, just like Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson, I later I'll read it to you. It's very short, but I'll read what he wrote, and I want you to see like, wow, going from Jackson 5 to who we know as a superstar, he mapped that out. Bruce Lee mapped it out. It's so strange, but I believe we all can do it.
So do you think we as individuals, as humans, have quite a lot of control over our futures, really, if we plan, if we manifest? I mean, how much power do we have as individuals over our own lives? Sounds like you think it's a lot.
I do think it's a lot, and we also live in a world. We don't. I mean, I know we elect our leaders, but we don't really have control of that kind of stuff. We don't have control of the economy and the exchange rates and what somebody else may do. Um, but in a very ethereal sense, right? In a very like, I don't know how to put this in empirical data, but I do believe that the world is reflective. And I think one of our shows we talked about the business of relationships. Was that one of us? Did we?
Yeah, I think that was one of them. Yeah. It was the business of monetizing relationships.
Monica, look at
Yeah,
you.
there it was.
Talk about intelligence. You're gifted. How'd you do that? Yes. So we do live in a world of relationships and other people doing their thing that we can't control. Um, and I also believe that the world is reflective of us, right? I believe that relationships are mirrors. And I believe that the things that agitate us or stand out about us are the things that we like. One of my good buddies, he's a sociologist. He said, Rodney, you never really like or dislike anybody. What are you talking about? Like, what do you mean? I can name, nah, there's some movie stars that I grew up like, oh, I don't like that person because they played a bad guy, and me thinking that's actually them my whole little life. But he was like, no, Rodney, you don't actually like or dislike anybody. It's like, what do you mean? He said, when you say you love somebody, you like them, what you're actually saying is, I love the experience of me that I feel when I'm around them.
You like how they make you feel.
That's right.
That's the
And when
thing
we,
they say, isn't it? They say that, you never remember when you have like a first meeting or whatever, you may forget their name. You may forget what the context of the discussion was. You will never forget how that person's interaction made you feel. And that comes down to emotional intelligence, doesn't it? And yeah.
intelligence, I do believe that we have a lot more agency in our life. I do. Um, I don't believe that I can wake up tomorrow and be a billionaire. Now, let me rephrase that. I believe that any human can do roughly what any human can do. Roughly. Now, there's some things that are just like a person that is 4'2" can't reach as tall as Shaquille O'Neal, right? With that being said, can that person adjust things that's 4'2" enough to be able to reach something that Shaquille?
Yeah,
Yes.
just get a ladder.
Just get a ladder, right?
Solve the
I believe
problem.
it.
Yeah.
Solve the problem. So I believe that all of us can introduce the ladders to reflect what any of us can do. Now, if I'm 4'2", the amount and type of ladder that I'll need may look different than somebody that's 6'2", still shorter than Shaq, but they're two different ladders, right? So any of us can become a billion. I'm just going to keep saying that because that came up already for us, right? For the theme. Any of us can be a billionaire. The amount of ladder, adjustment, tools, development that we'll take to get to there by tomorrow, by next year, that ladder can look vastly different. And so then it comes down to, do I actually want that outcome? Like the idea of winning an Olympic gold medal is phenomenal. But me sitting on my couch, eating my dessert, right? Just kind of watching telly. We don't say that here, by the way. That is very much a British thing. We don't. We
What's the
say
British thing? Oh,
telly.
telly.
We
Yeah.
say TV, right? We say TV. But if I was watching the telly and I'm just relaxing, do I want to do the work to qualify in the Olympic trials, make the team, and then do so well that I don't just medal, but get a gold? Once I kind of map out those cards, it's like,
Maybe it's
I'm
not
a,
the be all and end all. I was going to ask this about the billionaire sort of analogy. Is it a virtuous thing to want to be a billionaire, for that to be one of our goals? Do you think that's what we should be focusing on, or are there better things to focus on?
I believe that each of us should try to self-actualize. Are you familiar with that term? Yeah.
Yeah,
So
but in case the listeners aren't, let's what is
share out.
self-actualization? Yeah.
So there was some smart guy. His name was Abraham Maslow. And Maslow has this triangle, guys. And
Hierarchy of needs.
that's right.
Yeah.
Wizzi knows.
Shh, don't tell anyone.
So Maslow hierarchy of needs is this wonderful little triangle pyramid diagram. You guys can kind of look that up on Google and see it. And it says all humans need these things, right? The base level is just like safety and food, right? We don't want to be harmed. Actually, I don't even think safety is the first. I think that is the first level, maybe like food, just very basic needs. I
I
need to
think, is it
be,
shelter? Is that the first
yes,
one? I think
right?
it might
Yes,
be
something
shelter.
like
I
that,
think
right?
shelter comes before food, funnily enough. Like I can't remember
Yeah,
either,
yeah,
so don't
yeah.
quote us on this,
I
but
don't remember all of it,
yeah.
but at the top, what if those basic things, and it kind of keeps going up. You need this, humans need this, humans need this, and at the tippy top is something called now I can try to become who I really want to be. If money were no issue, if safety were no issue, if I didn't have to think about where my meal was coming from, if I have great relationships, if I'm okay, if all of these things are in place, building up to this pinnacle, then who do I really want to be? Because really, the idea of being a billionaire is embedded in this thing that I don't want to worry. I want to
Yeah.
be able to. And after you travel and eat and go and you do all this stuff, because I want to travel because that's still so after you've seen the stuff and you've been around and you're tired of airports. You're tired of checking in, right? You're tired of that beach looks like this beach. Like after 10 or 11, 12 beaches around the globe, it's like, okay, got it, beaches, got it.
I'm awful on the beach, and they'll never take me to the beach because I just get so bored. I'll go in the
Are you
sea.
serious?
I'll attempt to read a book and fail miserably because I can't read. I can't focus on words unless it's reading for work, funnily enough, but reading
Right,
for
right, right,
pleasure.
right.
No, so I'm just lying on a beach thinking, well, this is pretty, but I've been to some of
Right.
the best beaches in the world and I was bored.
That's right. So you check that box. So after we check all the boxes and we've eaten the food and we've done all the things, now what? Like now what do we do? And that's called self-actualization. And I believe each of us should try to live the life that who do I really want to be? Louisa, I feel my most authentic self when I'm talking in front of a room.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is in rooms with three people in a chalkboard, rooms of little kids, thousands of people out in the auditorium, just a camera that I'm looking at. Like when I'm sharing that that exchange, like the endorphins that we get when you tree hug. Now, tree hugging, especially in America, has like such a corny connotation. Like, why, who do you think you are? But being in nature, being grounded, being able to touch things, right? So our bodies are electromagnetic. I keep bringing that up for some reason, which is why we can put those little white pads on us and read EKGs and heart rate. Those are picking up brain signals, electricity, magnetism, etc. And so when we go out in nature, just like a plug, your plugs are different.
Yeah,
Your your
I have three
Yes.
prongs.
So that
Yeah.
third prong is a grounding prong, right? And it allows the electricity that's flowing through the house, if the house gets struck by lightning or something like that, to go into the ground and dissipate. It's like a very healthy circuit. Well, we also do that when we're touching nature, but then also literally for a tree, they are breathing out oxygen, the purest.
Mm.
We're breathing out carbon dioxide, which they need. So the purest form of that whole cycle. And I believe that as we experience ourselves breathing in and breathing out, who do we really want to be in our purest sense? I feel that when I'm engaging, I'm
Mm.
getting life and I'm giving life, getting life and I'm getting, and it is wonderful. And my dad did it when he was working in construction. So when he would paint or do carpentry, he was a rough guy. My dad was a strong, big, sometimes not so nice guy. And you would watch him work. He would hit a zen.
Hmm.
Oh, it was masterful and poetic, right? Just watching him, and it was so beautiful. I think each of us should find our zen, cooking, working with kids, being a nurse, driving automobile, whatever it is, whatever gives us that place to self-actualize. So if billionaire, it's not so much the billionaire status or the dollars or the pounds or the currency, but it's more about becoming who I really be.
And it's almost feeling we are rich, not necessarily financially rich, but then again, financial, wealth does help with freedom and it does
Right.
help us get to that self-actualization level of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, because without shelter, food, safety, security, comfort, all these things that money can help with, we can't get to that phase. So it's kind of important, really, isn't it? I mean, we might not need to be billionaires, but
Might not
to
need to be
feel
billionaire.
rich, but we
We
certainly
want to
need to
feel.
be able to house and feed ourselves, don't we, and clothe ourselves.
Did you guys have the epidemic of what we called here the Great Resignation?
Yeah, we had the Great Resignation.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a term that we used in England as well, definitely.
Yeah. And the thing that you made me think about with that, Wizzy, is people started feeling I'm okay. And I
Yeah.
believe. And I'm that feeling. See, that feeling is not necessarily billionaire or wealth status, but the ability to be like, you know what? Life is too short. And we almost lost half the like Thanos snapped, the globe went through pandemic quarantine, like it was crazy. And people started really tapping into what do I really want?
What do I really want? Yeah. And what's
What I
important
what's
and
important to
what's
me?
not important and what
And what's
shouldn't I be
not
doing anymore? And I think a
and
lot of people with the Great Resignation, a lot of people just realized, hey, I'm in a dead end job. I don't enjoy
yes,
wasting most of my time in my life, most of the hours in the day in a place I don't like. And I think that led to this Great Resignation thing. There was a huge kind of self-actualization, global self-actualization going
yes,
on after the pandemic, I think, because we all had that time to really think about life because it was so close to being taken away from
yeah.
us in
Like
many
they almost took it
situations.
from us. We
Mm.
almost lost everything. And so many of us started this process of self actualization. Tony Robbins, you familiar with that name?
Yeah.
Yeah, big,
He's the coach that comes up
motivational.
on all my, he does a lot of sponsored ads on Facebook, I think. So he's always all
Oh,
over
yeah,
my
yeah, yeah. He's
Facebook.
trying to
So
get you,
I'm
right?
in
He's trying
touch
to
with a lot of
motivate you.
coaches. So yeah, he comes up a lot.
He tells this story. So he moved to Fiji, right? Beautiful, picturesque location. And he always talks about, when he first was there, he would bring all of these wealthy Americans and Europeans over, and it would be a part of his, experiences and workshops. And they would go out on the beach, and those business people would often talk to the locals and be like, you got a nice shop here. You sell good food. You got good coconut drinks, whatever it is, right? You know what you really need to do? You need to take that so you can manufacture it, monetize it, and you be able to, then you can expand. And it's a great market here, and I'll work with you, and we can level up. And so, and then, just listening, and then get to the point where you come out here, relax on this beach. And the little Fiji guy looks up at him and says, I'm out here relaxing right
Yeah, perfect. I love that.
now. Right now.
Yeah, I'm fine. Like, the response to, you could monetize, you could make billions, you could do this, and they're just, I'm all right. I'm fine
Yeah.
selling my coconut water like as it falls from the tree, and I put it in a cup and I sell it, and I'm living a good life. We could
I'm
definitely
living a
learn a
good
lot
life.
from people that live more simply, I think.
Yeah, I want to live more simply, right?
Mm.
I want to be able to feel my feelings, understand who I am, try to bring out the better. Man, I know we don't have time to talk about all of this stuff, but as a parent, as a person in relationship with others, as a leader within the business world, the more I'm around teachers and trainers as a student myself, the more I'm realizing that my people, my kids, my people I'm in a relationship with, my staff, whoever it is, they are limited by my capacity to be. So if I want the
Mm.
best out of my work teams, for example, the business of emotional intelligence, says they can only get to the level of my current level of leadership, regardless of the policies, the memos that I put out. So if I really want to bring them up, I gotta do the work, gotta do the homework, self work to actualize into becoming in process over time who I want to be. And then it will naturally bring out. Last thing I'm gonna say, there's a study that's been repeated over and over again. They take these individuals, put them in crowded locations, and they would tell them to walk through. And if people are bumping them, and they're like, "Excuse me," some people are mad, like, "Hey, what are you doing?" Right? And then they would tell them, when you walk through to the look the whole time. Don't look at people. Don't say, "Excuse me." The whole time, look there and go. And it's such the craziest thing. These show they're on YouTube. It's people move out the way.
Go to Denmark. It's the best example of that. Nobody moves for
That
anyone in Denmark, but there's hardly any pedestrian crashes either. You know, you just when you're in
crazy.
Denmark, you literally just have to eyes straight and go because you will get just barged. You know, and nobody says sorry. Nobody says excuse me. Nobody cares. It's very weird. Yeah.
Pronounce it for me. How do they pronounce it? It's not Copenhagen. That's the American way to say it. How do you say it?
Copenhagen.
Copenhagen.
Copenhagen. Yeah.
Copenhagen.
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 Whole Denmark.
Do you love it? Do you
I'm
love
not
it?
there anymore.
Where are you now?
I'm back in the UK.
I think you're a globetrotter. You are a globetrotter. Where are you going to next? India,
I don't
Pakistan?
know. Well, maybe New Zealand actually. Maybe New Zealand. I've got a friend who lives out there, and yeah, I was discussing that with her recently. So
Are you going to go and stay there?
yeah, I
Or
might
you
go visit at some point, but it's quite pricey flights, so I need to kind of save some money, go visit, and then potentially move there if I can work out the visa situation. Because obviously, since Brexit, it's harder to go. I mean, it was always hard to go to New Zealand anyway, but since Brexit, it's difficult to go to Europe without a visa. Well, you can't go to Europe without a visa from England anymore. So it's just the same. I'm just the same as you now. Americans need visas to go to Europe, and now we do as well. So
so crazy.
bringing us together. But yeah, we're going to have to leave it there, Rodney. So thank you so much for joining me on the business of emotional intelligence. Where can we follow you online and get in touch for
Rodney
more
C. Burris.
information? Rodney C.
Everywhere.
Burris. Is that
Rodney
.com?
C. .com, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube. I would love to connect.
Fabulous. Once again, thank you, Rodney C. Burris, and have a lovely day.